Hello, everyone. Very good morning to all the students present in today's lecture of digital communication. I hope my voice is properly audible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the response, Nachiket. Let me share my screen. So before we start, just a little brush up by asking few simple questions from you people. So let me ask with Yash Jogani. Can you listen? Mr. Yash? Yash Jogani? Seems he's not there. Nandini Bhuva, is my voice audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then those students whose name I'm calling, please respond. Achal Mehta, can you listen?
Yes, sir.
Achal, can you tell the difference between pulse code modulation and delta modulation?
Sir, your voice cracked.
My voice is cracking.
Yes, sir.
I hope now it is clear.
Yes, sir.
So what is the difference between pulse code modulation and delta modulation? You remember?
Sir, delta modulation is like analog to digital.
Okay.
Um,
If you do not remember, please feel free.
and sir, pulse code is for like reworking analog signal into digital
Sorry,
signal.
sorry, Ajkal. Uh, this is beyond what I am expecting. Let me ask someone else. Chalo, it's okay. Can revise. Na? Issues. Bhargav Gilani. Bhargav ji, can you listen? Darshit Asodia. Jimmy Taravia.
Yes, sir.
Jimmy, can you differentiate between delta modulation and pulse code modulation?
Uh, Sir, actually, I don't remember it because I have not revised them.
Okay, so but I think you are able to access the lecture files as well as the video lecture recordings of our
Yeah, yeah,
course.
sir. So I was just watching the last lecture about the adaptive delta modulation and like data modulation in waveform that like uh, plus and minus delta leads to limited amplifying, I mean step size modulation and all.
Uh-huh.
So like in SDM, integrator is used, but what disadvantage is that noise is also added in it.
Yes,
So I was not able to revise them properly.
it is okay, no problem. But it is good thing, Jimmy, that you have already started to look into the material, because um, 20th August will be tomorrow, so you will have, I think, 10 days left for not only revising but also covering what topics we will cover in the next 10 days. Okay, essentially roughly 2 weeks, है ना? So it
Yeah,
is good. and
I will
and
try.
yes, yes, good. The good thing is that whenever I want to talk to you, all the students, if you are responding, that is the first good thing. But if you are not responding, then I mean it is not a good sign, because I will not come to know about your learning status, etc. If you are facing any problem, I would be in a position to help you all if we have a proper communication. Okay, so that is the purpose of just waking you all up. Okay, so please start revising, and mostly I have shared all the PDF files there. As I already mentioned, PDF files, they are kind of nutshell documents, है ना? They do not represent everything. हाँ Jimmy, tell me.
No, no, yeah, yeah. I'm saying the same thing. Yeah, I will try.
Okay. So yeah, I mean I'm not now addressing to Jimmy only. It is the entire class I'm referring to. So please watch video recordings also, because many things we discuss, they are not written in PDF. They are written documents. They are like kind of PowerPoints, you can say. Okay, powerful points. Okay, good. So let us go back to our presentation, and we'll catch with few more students in between. So we'll take up the circuits related to delta modulation, adaptive delta modulation, PCM, DPCM, and STM in a separate lecture, where we will be covering the circuit level or block level details of these modulation schemes. But by this time, conceptually, all these modulation techniques, basics should be clear in your mind. Okay. So we begin this topic of multiplexing. So what is multiplexing? Would anyone would like to give a try? What do you mean by multiplexing?
In digital logic design sense.
In general, what is multiplexer multiplexing process?
It's basically a process of selecting one function out of a series of you know inputs,
Okay.
and that is selected using either an input bit. So
Okay.
yeah,
I think you are recalling your digital logic design content. You might
yes,
have. Yeah, so that is the same thing. Good. Who is this? Who was giving answer?
Nachiket.
Nachiket. Good. So there you might have seen like 4 cross 1 mux, है ना? 8 cross 1 mux, where you had selection lines to select appropriate input line, and that particular input line is getting connected to a single output line. So essentially multiplexing is the process of putting different signals with a different criteria, with different putting criteria onto a common line. In our communication perspective, we are calling that output line or common line as a channel. Okay, so we are sending multiple signals, different signals, in onto one single channel. How do we do that? We do that with the help of a device we call as multiplexer. Okay, so by using multiplexing, we use a single channel, a cable, or maybe a wireless link to handle multiple signals simultaneously. Now, the simultaneously is containing, lot of, um, you can say, other information also. It is the way in which we multiplex. So we'll see there are frequency based multiplexing, there are time based multiplexing. Simultaneously, in that case, maybe would lose its little definition. We'll see. But generally, we call it simultaneously because we are not able to depict the difference when it comes to your time based multiplexing. And it allows us to send hundreds or thousands of signal to be combined and transmitted over a single channel or medium. So it is a process of simultaneously transmitting two or more individual signals over a single communication channel, cable or wireless. And it found majority application everywhere. Telephone system, satellites, all the communication system, they are working on this multiplexing technique. So what do we gain out of multiplexing? What is the first visible advantage? So the first visible advantage is you are not requiring thousands of separate channels. That will be a huge cost. Second thing is your feasibility. It is not at all feasible for you to have 1 lakh cable separately running for different communication channels, whereas single channel can suffice that purpose. So practicality, feasibility point of view, multiplexing is kind of mandatory part of your communication system. Okay, so you can see these are multiple input signals. Multiplexer combines these and put over a single channel. This channel transmission occurs. At the receiving side, the reverse of this is there, which we're calling as demultiplexer. And demultiplexer does the reverse task. It takes out the copies of input signals which are now arranged here and separate them out into original input signals. So multiplexer generally represented as mux, demultiplexer as demux, like this. Very simple. It is like this. Are we good so far? You all are getting along with the flow?
Yes, sir.
And I hope we are not going at very fast speed, and if it happens, please inform me. I try to keep it as not slow but steady as possible. Okay, but in case if you feel, please feel free, sir, you are going very fast, please take a pause. Anyhow, so there are two techniques or types of multiplexing. One is frequency division and another is your time division, FDM and TTM. So in the later slides of today's session, we will see there is something, the concept of duplexing. We will cover that, but this is multiplexing. Don't mix that with the duplexing concept. So as the name suggests, in frequency division multiplexing, you are transmitting individual signals at different frequency values. Okay, and within a common bandwidth. So if you are having a range of frequencies which are allowed to be used as communication frequencies, say between F1 to F2. So you are dividing this range into fixed frequency width channels, okay, like this, n number of divisions you are making, and each width of this frequency spectrum you are utilizing to send different signals. So this will be like signal 1, signal 2, signal 3, signal 4, and like that. Whereas in time division multiplexing, the multiple signals are transmitted in different time slots on the single channel. So in TDM, again, same bandwidth is available, say f1 to f2 frequency range. Essentially, it is defined by central frequency, but let us assume we have a range in which you can transmit. So this entire spectrum is used by a single user, but for a fraction of time. Okay, so maybe this entire channel is allocated to user number one data transmission or voice transmission for say 20 microseconds or 100 microseconds. The next 100 microseconds will be allotted to another user, another signal. That is the difference. So that's why I said the simultaneous word is little bit catchy. Do you feel that in time division multiplexing it is exactly simultaneous? Yes or no?
Sorry, sir, can you repeat?
Okay. So when we go back to our this no simultaneous word, I emphasize no that signals are transmitted simultaneously over the channel. And when we look at this time division multiplexing, is it really time division multiplexing is simultaneous in case of TDM?
No.
No, yes. But the thing is, it appears to be simultaneous because the time duration for which the bandwidth is allocated to different users is very less with respect to our human perceptions. Microseconds or maybe 1 millisecond, it's nothing. I mean, we cannot notice any difference, and essentially we are not supposed to notice any difference because what we hear, what we receive the data is actually the final representation of the data. But still we can, in a fair sense, we can call it as a simultaneous transmission. But a true simultaneous transmission is FTM, where any user can utilize its available bandwidth, allocated bandwidth anytime. Okay, not the case with TDM. It has to wait for its time slot. This is TDM. So signal 1, so this axis you can see is a time, and you can see different signal portions, they are transmitted over the channel at different points of time. So signal 1, 2, 3, 4. Let us call this as one frame. Okay, so these four combination of these time slots, we recall it as a frame. Okay, and equal time slots are allocated for each signal. Okay, so frame actually consists of combination of different time slots, and frames are transmitted in a kind of manner. So TDM, it can be used with both digital as well as analog signal. For example, if the data is consisting of sequential bytes in a sequence, one byte of data from each source can be transmitted during the time interval assigned to a particular channel. Okay. So the sequence of bits entirely can be transmitted in the given time slot to the particular user. It can also be used to transmit continuous analog signals, whether they are voice, video, or telemetry. How this is accomplished? It is achieved by sampling the analog signal repeatedly at a high rate and then converting the samples to binary numbers and transmitting them serially. So essentially, don't get confused in these 2 points. Essentially, the data is transmitted as per the time slot. Here you are directly being referred to 1 byte of data, but here you are saying you are told that the data is converted to first binary numbers, and then that is nothing different than the first statement. But just to give you an idea how analog signals also can be transmitted. So are we good so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for the response. So we already know when we sample analog signals, we get pulse amplitude modulation. We have seen this earlier lectures in detail. So we call it as a pulse amplitude modulation multiplexer. So we require an electronic switch which will periodically sample the different input signals at a very high speed of rate. So I think you are pretty much aware of these pulse amplitude modulation. You have this signal, this is your sampling instant, this instant is your sampling instant. You wait for this sampling time to take this sample of the original signal, then you do not do anything for this much period of time, and at the next sampling instant you again sample for the fixed duration like this. So you get copies of your original signal in chunks at regular intervals of time. So this is, you can see there is something we call as sampling interval and something which is sampling width. Okay. So electronic switch we are referring to. What is that electronic switch? This is a very popular electronic switch, is known as electronic multiplexer. So you can see it is a MOSFET based electronic multiplexer. Can somebody tell what is MOSFET? Anyone? I think you might have studied this early course, some early course.
MOSFETs have distinct plus one and zeros
No,
compared to.
my question is what is MOSFET? There are BJT, then
Yeah.
JFET, then MOSFET. Na?
Yes.
So what is MOSFET?
Sir, it is a transistor.
Yes, T stands for transistor. What does MOS stand for? Metal oxide.
Metal oxide
हाँ जी बोलिए. Yes, please go ahead.
metal oxide semiconductor, and FET means field effect transistor.
Very good response. Thank you. And can you also please mention one unique characteristic of MOSFET device, which makes it, strikingly different from BJT or JFET?
It has a small, it has small voltage to be provided for it to reach saturation.
Fantastic answer. Very good. So it works on low voltages. Power consumption is very less in compare to the other BJT, JFET. MOSFET is a low power consuming device, and also less heat dissipation occurs in MOSFET. So good, you all people very actively participate. So you can see electronic multiplexer is nothing but usage of MOSFET switches. You can see these all are MOSFET switches. Okay. So this terminal, this one, what is this known as? This terminal, this one, what is this known as? How do we control? We call it as gate. Okay, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And a drain, source, and gate. So we are using this gate to use this as a switch, to use this in a switching operation. So you can see 0, 1, 2, 3, these are our input, analog input signals, and we have provided some resistor in between to control the flow of current for our circuit purpose. So essentially it is, the multiplexer is a operational amplifier summer circuit, not that season summer winter. Summer means summing circuit, okay, with the MOSFETs on each input register. So I hope you all recollect your operational amplifier knowledge. Operational amplifier, do you remember?
Yes, sir.
So can you
Yes, sir.
say something about operational amplifier? I mean, if
Has
somebody
a
asks you,
inverting and
uh-huh,
non-inverting.
uh-huh,
It has
inverting
a
and non-inverting
inverting and non-inverting
terminals,
point.
what else?
They are used as voltage amplifiers.
Their users, amplifiers, yes. Okay, so remember, whenever you listen to this term operational amplifier, first thing which should come to your mind is the word differential. What is that word? Differential. If you recollect the inside of a operational amplifier, how it looks like, suppose you're using BJT for that. If you recollect that, there is one this RC, the collector register, then you have this BJT, then you have RE.
Then there is another BJT on the opposite side.
Yes. So essentially, the difference of the signals which is applied at these two parts. I mean, it is again further complicated, but this is a very basic circuit diagram for a operational amplifier. So it is a differential operation. Okay, you obtain this. This is V1. This is V2. It is assumed that both these transistors, they are identical in nature, etc., etc. All those things are there. You might have studied. We are not going to discuss all that part. But operational amplifier is a differential amplifier. Okay, it is a differential configuration. What is the unique advantage of operational amplifier is that it has got very high input impedance or input resistance, very high. What is the impact of that? If you have a very high input uh, resistance or input impedance, how it is beneficial? Can you recollect your earlier studies? If I say you that input resistance being very high is good for our circuit or signal transformation, do you agree?
Yes, sir.
You okay? So what is the reason for that?
Higher the resistance, more is the voltage difference. So that way we can amplify it more.
So the thing is, if the device input resistance is very high, assume ideally it's like very high, infinity, you know, it will draw negligible current from the input source. Only the voltage will be reflected to the other part of the circuit. So no current drawn is required, only the voltage will be appearing as it is from the input to the inside of the entire circuit. So that is the reason input resistance has to be very high. So we are using these two operational amplifiers as summing circuit. So you can see there is one this circuit, there is one feedback register. Okay, I hope you recollect the feedback mechanism in your operational amplifier. You might have seen non-inverting amplifier, inverting amplifier, right? So this is RF. You know? We incorporate feedback for stability. Do you all agree? Yes, you all should agree. We use feedback resistance for stability purposes, for stable operation of the amplifier. So the signal, input signal, once the gate gets the appropriate signal at its terminal, this path gets connected. So the MOSFET is conducting it as a very low resistance and therefore acts as a closed switch. So this switch, Hanji? Yes, anyone saying something? Okay, maybe by mistake. Okay, so this is like a closed switch. This switch is closed on the application of this signal at this terminal. When the transistor, this MOSFET transistor is off, no current flows, it is open. So a digital pulse applied to the gate of the MOSFET turns the transistor on. That is clear. Okay, so this gate terminal is crucial for the switching on and off operation of this MOSFET switch. If there is no pulse at the gate terminal, means transistor is off, the switch is open. So the control pulses to the MOSFET switches at the gate terminal are such that only one MOSFET is turned on at a time. It is never possible that any of the two of the gate terminals they are getting a high signal. How this is ensured? This is ensured with the help of this small circuit. You can see you have this signal you are calling as one shot. You have a clock which is running this show of these T flip-flops. Do you remember T flip-flops?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
what is the difference between D flip-flop and T flip-flop?
Sir, D flip-flop has basically T flip-flops toggles the values,
Yes.
and D flip-flop will change only when there is a 1.
So T flip-flop follows whatever input comes.
Yeah.
And T flip-flop, it actually toggles whatever is the earlier output. So good. You all are remembering this. It is good. So these MOSFETs, they are turned on in a sequence by this digital circuitry. So you can see the output of this toggle is A or A bar, definitely, because it is toggling in nature. So this is A bar, B bar. Four possibilities of A and B, they are there, and they are all fed to these AND gates. And there is another circle, one signal, that is the one shot signal. So essentially all have to be high in order to pass through a very high level signal at the output of this AND gate, so that this switch is turned on. So you can just have a go around with the working of this circuit, because you are aware of T flip-flop and how switches are being switched on and off periodically. Okay, so all the MOSFET switches, they are connected in series with this resistor. We have seen this. There is a feedback resistor, and for stability purpose, you can have the gain controlled with the operational amplifier with this feedback resistor, and assume that the input and feedback resistors are equal in value, means gain is 1. Okay, because our intention here is not to amplify the signal, but our intention is to multiplex the signal. Remember, this is a multiplexer. Okay, so because we are using this configuration in inverting mode, whatever input comes here, it will get inverted at this output, So you need another set of operational, another operational amplifier to just reverse the polarity change which has happened because of this first operational amplifier. So because of this double inversion, you require two operational amplifiers, and the gain is kept unity for both of these. So whatever comes here, it appears here based on the switching action of this MOSFET switch. So each time the clock pulse occur here, the one shot generates its pulse, which is applied simultaneously to all the 4 and decoder gates. One shot, you can see it is applied to all, but because of the clock, the values or the combinations of A and B will change. So at any given time, only one of the gates is enabled. You have 4 gates here, so you can see 2 flip-flops. They are sufficient. 2 inputs you require to have either 0 0, 0 1, 1 0 or 1 1. Okay. The output of the enabled gate is a pulse whose duration is the same as that of the one shot. One shot is just one signal which actually you want in the output. It is essentially the other 2 inputs of these AND gates which will determine whether it will come or not. And those are running directly driven by the clock signal. Okay. Similarly, you have electronic demultiplexer. So similar switching action you require at the receiving side. So this is multiplexed pulse amplitude modulation signal, modulated signal you are receiving after transmission over this channel, and you are considering this as an analog input, and then again you are using switches to selectively switch on and off the different copies of this signal at different times. Same circuit you can say is here, and then you are using operational amplifier in certain configuration to get back the original signal. You are also using a low pass filter. Why are we using low pass filter? Can somebody tell?
So for removing noise.
Yes, for removing unwanted portion of the signal and to smooth our original analog signal. Okay, so you can see once the signal is recovered, it is applied to a demux. Demux is the reverse of mux. It has single input and multiple outputs. Okay, so is what thing is separating the different components of the signal here? The PAM signal. It is actually the timing at which these switches are made on and off. So if this is on, all these will be off. So for that particular duration of time, only this portion of the signal will appear here after filtering. So you are separating a specific portion of your received multiplexed signal. You are taking out the copy of the individual signal. Similarly, at the next instant, output will be high. Output will be available here like this. So it is the individual PAM signal. They are sent to operational amplifier where they are buffered and amplified. So it is essentially a proper reconstruction of your signal and then pass through a low pass filter for noise removal. Okay. So are we good so far? Students? Please tell me, is this electronic multiplexer and demultiplexer operation clear to everyone?
No, sir.
Not clear?
Sir, I have doubt in the electronic multiplexer.
Please tell me.
So, sir, they use the two op amp. Sir, if we don't want to amplify, then why use two op-amp because we get same signal after
Okay.
after
Okay.
two time inversion.
Okay, so the very good question. What is your name? Nachiket.
Yes, sir.
Nachiket is asking this question.
No, no, no.
No, sir.
It's Nirbhay.
Nirbhay. Okay,
Nirbhay.
good question. So we are using, first of all, we have to understand why we are using operational amplifier. So like I said, operational amplifier, which is a differential amplifier, which is a differential configuration, has its unique properties. What is the unique property? It has got very high input resistance. So whatever is applied at the input of the operational amplifier, a negligible current is drawn in the circuit of your operational amplifier. We don't want to draw current from the input signal, right? We just want to use it as a voltage value and pass on to the further units. Do you agree with this, Nirbhay?
Yes, sir.
है? So that is the reason we are using operational amplifier. First part of this. Second part is why we are using this gain. So as I said, we are using feedback configuration of this operational amplifier, and if you remember the gain with feedback of the operational amplifier AF, it is 1 plus RF by R1 for one case, AF is minus RF by R1 for one case. What are those cases? This is inverting amplifier configuration. This is non-inverting amplifier configuration. I hope you recollect the derivation of the feedback.
Yes, sir.
Gain with feedback for operational amplifier.
Yes.
So now, again, selection of which configuration you want to go for. We want to go for inverting amplifier because it has got very good stability. I hope you understand the importance of stable operation of any circuit, right? So we are going for this one, inverting amplifier. Okay, so we have selected op-amp. We know the reason why. We have selected inverting configuration. We know the reason why. Now only thing remaining is we don't want to amplify it. So how we can do that? Just keep the values of RF and R1 such that the gain is unity. That we can do, right? We can select proper RF because whatever input resistance we are using, we can have it. I hope my voice is not breaking because I get a message in between, bad network quality.
No, sir, not breaking.
Okay. Understood? So selection of RF and R1. Now, because of certain reasons, we made our decisions, but the outcome of this decision is whatever input signal is appearing here, since this is inverting amplifier, negative sign is there, the polarity of the output signal will be just reverse of what was the actual input signal. To nullify this, we use another inverting configuration of the operational amplifier. So negative ka negative will be positive. Okay, so the polarity will be again reversed with the help of this extra operational amplifier unit. So whatever polarity comes here, it will be appearing at the output. So I hope it is clear to you, Nirbhay.
Yes, sir, it is clear. But sir, what happen if we don't use these two amplifier? Then
we have to use because of, see, what are the roles of these? We can connect. Can we connect directly? Wire connection like this? We cannot rely on that. That will not be giving good circuit level experience. There will be jitters. There will be disconnections. So we need some circuits so that our required task is performed without any electrical troubles. So I mean, I hope you are clear with the
yes,
selection
sir.
of components. So we could have, you could have asked that, sir, why you are using this switch? We can have that this hand controlled switch also, na? We cannot do that because we want it to be controlled electronically. So similarly, to maintain the electrical characteristics of the signal for a proper isolation in the circuits, etc., various reasons are there. We need different circuits. Okay, I mean, you might have studied different circuits like amplifier, rectifier, clippers, clampers, like that. So these circuits, they make practically possible to have our implementation of the you can say desired function of the circuit. So are we good in understanding?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Nearby, you have proactively asked, and I hope I was able to address to your concerns. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we take a pause at this point of time, and we'll continue in the next lecture next week. And as I told you, I will share the link for the lab assignment upload. So I will share the link. I hope you all have prepared your the lab assignments. At least the first one you have prepared, and you should be so. Well, just again to recollect, you should upload PDF handwritten of the handwritten this thing. It should not be typed, because that will add legitimacy to your assignments. Okay, but the plots and all you can put like copy paste in your this PDF, whatever result you get. Okay, if no further queries are there, then I am stopping the session here.